Hello, Clinic Review family. It's Dr. Sharon with Clinic Reviews. Today I'm going to be going over the Blue Book, Confidentiality and Privacy. I have the Blue Book sitting right here, so if I look over to the side for a minute, it's because I'm going to be looking at the Blue Book. You can get Mark's Blue Book on Amazon. It is not an NCLEX question book. It is a content knowledge book. So people will say, well, what content do I need to study? Y'all, you need to study the Blue Book. It's not an endless source of information, but it is fundamental facts that you need to know. So if you're looking for a summary of some of the information you need to know, I would purchase that. You can also do a clinic review with us and NCLEX review. You can do it in person or online, although most people are doing them online anymore. It's a recorded video lecture that Mark does, and you'll have access to it for a certain number of months, depending on how long you want to purchase it for. Okay. All right, let's get down to business. So confidentiality and privacy. So here's the thing is you have to maintain the patient's confidentiality. Confidentiality is access to their medical records. The only people who have access to their medical records are the patient themselves and the healthcare team that is caring for them. Now, if they have a referral, if they're given a referral to another doctor, you can send encrypted, you can do it in an encrypted fashion, but you can send medical records to anyone who's been consulted. And the patient, as long as they signed the HIPAA waiver when they were admitted or when they started seeing the doctor, when they sign that HIPAA waiver, what they're saying is, look, here's the people you can give access to my medical records. And I also acknowledge that you will be sharing my medical records with those who need to see it on the healthcare team. So you don't have to get patient consent every time you share the medical records with an actual consulted physician. Now, if you see someone coming up, let's say they're a urologist and urology was not consulted for this patient, it would be appropriate for you to ask why they're looking at the patient's chart. They should not be looking at the patient's chart. And you should not be looking at the patient's chart if it's not your patient. So you are not allowed to just go and look at any patient random chart in the hospital. You can only look at the charts of your patients. And the doctor can only look at the charts of their patients, and hospital administrators should not be getting into the patient's charts. If you see a hospital administrator coming around and looking at patients' charts, it is appropriate for you to confront them and say, can I help you? What's going on here? Why are you looking at this chart? What's the medical reason for you to look at the patient's chart? Hospital administrators are running the hospital. They don't have any rights to see patients' charts at all. Now, can you talk to other staff about your patient? You can talk to other staff about the patient if it's in a private setting. You have to go to a private setting. And as long as it's appropriate conversation about the patient. So I can talk to another nurse on the floor about my patient. If I'm getting their opinion, hey, could you give me some information? Like, I'm thinking about this. What do you think about this? This is the symptoms the patient is having. I'm thinking it could be this. Do you think that sounds right? So I can consult with other staff and get their opinions about things that I'm trying to figure out. But that doesn't mean I sit down and say, hey, go look at their chart and see what you think. That's not the way it's done. So I can talk with other staff in private about what's going on with the patient if it's for the purpose of helping me to make a decision for the patient's best interest, but we don't share the chart. Now, there are two different types of privacy. There's physical privacy and there's psychological privacy. Physical privacy is physically putting them in an area where they feel like they have the privacy they need. So they shouldn't have to go to the bathroom out in front of other people. They shouldn't have to change their clothes in front of other people. They should have physical privacy according to what's necessary. Now, they can be put in a semi-private room. Semi-private room is with another patient. So they can't demand a private room, but you are required to give them appropriate amount of privacy within that semi-private room. So they need to be able to close the curtain and so forth. Now, psychological privacy is the privacy that is a feeling that your information isn't being shared with others. So the best answer on the NCLEX is that if you want to talk to a patient who's in a semi-private room about their medical condition, you should either ask the other patient to leave or you should take the patient to another room. So that's why they have consultation rooms in hospitals, because you can put a patient in a wheelchair, wheel them to a consultation room and talk with them about their healthcare situation. And it's probably why so many hospitals are getting rid of their semi-private rooms, because they're pretty strict about this. Now, is it always done perfectly in real life? Of course, it's always not always done perfectly in real life. But on the NCLEX, you want to say that you would talk with that patient privately. You're not going to talk about their information in front of anybody else. And that includes the family. You can ask the family to leave unless it says the patient has given their permission to talk about their situation in front of the family. One other thing about confidentiality as it involves medical records is the only people who have access to the patient's medical records are themselves. They have access to their medical records, and the healthcare team that's caring for the patient. The only exception to that, and it's not entire medical records, but if someone is diagnosed with a disease that's required to be reported to the health department, is we do have to report certain things to the health department, like sexually transmitted diseases, for example, tuberculosis. We have to report to the health department, but that doesn't mean we send them their entire medical record. We are not sending the patient's entire medical record. We're simply reporting the occurrence of a specific disease. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some questions. Hello, Clinic Review family. As most of you know, this YouTube channel is a part of the Clinic Review NCLEX review business that's run by Mark Klimek. And the YouTube channel is an opportunity for you to see what we do and how we help you pass NCLEX without any cost to you. But we also offer some things that you can pay for that are really worth paying for. And I want to tell you a little bit about those things. So if you go to clinicreviews.com, you will see when you first get there, it'll tell you about Clinic Connect. And Clinic Connect is actually a free community that you can join. And Mark Klimek does participate in the Clinic Connect community. So you can join that. You can actually see some videos from Mark Klimek, and you can have some interaction with him. You can ask him questions and so forth and make recommendations that you would like to see. If you go ahead and scroll down, you actually will see some of the other products that we provide. You can see our world famous NCLEX review that Mark Klimek does, and you can purchase it online on demand. And you can have access to it for a minimum of 3 months. And then I think you can purchase it for a little bit longer. Mark Klimek actually teaches these lectures. They are on demand, so they're recorded, but they're really phenomenal. You're going to learn so much by taking this NCLEX review. Mark developed it specifically for people who struggle to pass. So especially if you're struggling to pass, I recommend it. And then even if you're not struggling to pass or you haven't taken the NCLEX yet, we do recommend, or I recommend, the tutoring. I teach one of the tutoring sessions, and it's live stream, so you can actually talk to me, see what's going on, ask me questions personally. Mark Klimek teaches 2 of those live streams. You can actually meet him and talk to him. And then Dr. Pete or Trevor teaches the other one. And there's 4. I just told you there's 4. And they are also recorded so that if you can't attend the live stream, you can watch them in recording. Or if you attend the live stream and want to watch them again, you can do that as well. So these are some of the products that we offer. And I do recommend looking into them. There's some really terrific products. Even if you don't do those, we're so glad you're a part of the Clinic Review family on YouTube. And we do want to support you in passing NCLEX. That's our goal across the board, is supporting you in passing your NCLEX and becoming nurses, because we really need nurses to provide excellent care. So we wish you all the best as you prepare to take your NCLEX, and see you later as part of the family. Bye. Some of these are pretty fundamental, and some of them are to just demonstrate the concept that I taught you. Okay, which client right is being honored when a nurse avoids bringing any harm to the client? Sharon, you just talked about confidentiality, and then you asked me this question. You're right. I wanted to see if you were going to pick confidentiality off the list, because that's not confidentiality. Justice is fairness. So fairness, treating everybody fairly. Confidentiality is keeping their information private. Non-maleficence is do not bring harm. Okay, do not bring harm. Self-determination is their right to make their own decisions. Some people might call that autonomy as well. So that could be autonomy. So the client right that's being honored when a nurse avoids bringing harm is non-maleficence. All right, we'll actually do some confidentiality questions now. An individual identifying themselves as the client's stepdaughter calls the floor and asks the RN about the patient's condition. What is the best nursing response? Okay, so they identify themselves as the client's stepdaughter and they call the floor. All right, A, you will need to ask your stepmom those questions. B, she is stable. Beyond that, I cannot give you any information. C, I will transfer you back to your stepmom's room. D, I can neither confirm nor deny whether this person is here or not. So what is the rule? What is the rule with this question? Are we allowed to give information to anybody other than the healthcare team without the patient's consent? And the answer is no, we cannot give any information. So which is the only answer that shows I know I cannot give any information? Y'all, the one that shows that I know that I cannot give any information is I can neither confirm nor deny whether this person is here or not. And you might say, I would never say that. Look, I would never say those exact words either. But it is not okay to say she is stable. Beyond that, I can't not give you any information. We can't say anything, y'all. HIPAA says we cannot say anything. We can't even confirm that they're there without the client's consent. This may not even be her. I mean, maybe a stepdaughter, but maybe she's some wackadoo who has been stalking her stepmom for who knows how long. And maybe this woman, the client's been trying to get away from her. So we can't, without permission from the client, we can't even acknowledge that someone is there. The RN is caring for a client with chronic mental status changes who has an identified healthcare power of attorney. The healthcare power of attorney has never visited the client in person, but calls the floor and asks the RN about the client's status. The best nursing response is, I can neither confirm nor deny that this person is here. They are stable and eating breakfast at the moment. You will need to call the primary physician to get a health update. You will need to come in person for a status update. All right, so what's the rule about healthcare power of attorney? Y'all, when someone has been given a healthcare power of attorney, that means that that is the person that we give information to. Now, you can tell the client, there's nothing wrong with telling the client, but if they have mental status changes, they may not remember. They may say no when really it's something that they need to have done. So we can share all health information with the healthcare power of attorney. And what I don't want you to say is, well, how do I know they're really the healthcare power of attorney? You know, because it tells you in the question. It says, the person who's calling is the healthcare power of attorney. So it says the HPO has never visited, but they are calling. Okay, or they call the floor. So it tells you they are. So you don't overthink it and go, well, how do I really know? You know, because they just told you that's who that was. And so the correct answer is you look for the answer that says, I know I get to answer their question. That's what you are looking for. The answer that shows, I know I get to answer their question. So A is out. We're not going to say C, and D is not true. So you might say, well, how do I know they're eating breakfast? That's not the point. The point, this is a testing strategy. The point is that you're looking for the answer that shows you know that you're allowed to give them information. All right, 4, a nurse is caring for a patient who has been diagnosed with HIV. The patient expresses concern about their privacy and asks the nurse not to share this information with anyone. Which of the following actions by the nurse would be the most appropriate? All right, so they're diagnosed with HIV. They don't want it shared with anyone. A, inform the patient's family members about the diagnosis to ensure they take precautions. No, that's false. I would not do that. HIPAA would not allow me to do that, even if I wouldn't want to do that anyway, but no. B, share the patient's HIV status only with the healthcare team directly involved in the patient's care. That's true. C, report the patient's HIV status to the patient's employer. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. D, discuss the patient's diagnosis openly in the nursing station to ensure all staff is aware. Well, that's obviously not true. So B is the correct statement. Now you might say, well, it doesn't say anything about reporting it to the health department. And that's because we're looking for the best answer here, which would be most appropriate. Well, A, C, and D are not appropriate at all. So B is the best answer here. All right, so that's what you're looking for. I actually, all right, 5. A nurse overhears 2 colleagues discussing a patient's medical condition in the hospital cafeteria. Which action should the nurse take to protect the patient's privacy? Now, the number one way that patients feel that their privacy is violated is when the staff is talking about them in front of other people. And I would feel the same way, y'all. I would definitely feel the same way. So when you're talking about your patient's condition in front of other people, that's violating their privacy. Okay. All right. A, confront the colleagues and ask them to stop discussing the patient in a public area. Absolutely. I would be very appropriate for me to do that. Now, would I feel comfortable doing that? No. Would it be the right thing for me to do? Yes, it would. Join the conversation? No, absolutely not. Well, and change the topic to something unrelated? No. No, because that's not what you do. C, report the incident to the hospital's administration immediately. Maybe. D, ignore the conversation. It is not a direct violation of patient confidentiality. So that's false. So I like either A or C. So I'm either, because it says, which action should the nurse take to protect the patient's privacy? Okay. See, when I go back and reread the question, I go, I'm looking to protect the patient's privacy. So I would be obligated to report them to like my nurse manager. That would be appropriate. But that's not the best action to protect their privacy. Because if I do that, but I don't confront them, then I'm still not protecting their privacy. And this is saying what's the basically the best action. And so I can only do one. It's not a first question. It doesn't say what would you do first. Well, I mean, even if it said what would I do first, I would still do A, and then I would do C, right? But if I can only pick one, to protect their privacy, I'm gonna have to confront them and ask them to stop talking about it. So A is the right answer. All right, 6. Which of the following is a violation of patient confidentiality? A nurse shares a patient's lab results with the healthcare team members involved in the patient's care. That's not a violation of confidentiality. A nurse discusses a patient's condition. Oh, violation. Okay, so A is not a violation. B, a nurse discusses a patient's condition with a colleague in a private staff room. That's not a violation. C, a nurse leaves a patient's medical record open on a computer screen. That is a violation. D, a nurse updates the patient's family about the patient's condition after receiving consent from the patient. That's not a violation. So the only one that's a violation is C. Well, if you heard screaming in the background, it's because I have a grandson here who's been screaming in the background. So I hope that didn't bother you. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.